Before we start, everything we're doing in this video can be found on the Visit Rwanda app. Check the link in the description below and you can try it out for yourself. Good morning and welcome to Kigali, Rwanda. We've just arrived this morning, just driven straight from the airport and about to spend 5 days here exploring everything you can see, hopefully in Rwanda. We're starting off in Kigali. We're about to walk into the Nyamirambo, I never pronounce things right. We're about to walk into the Nyamirambo Women's Center and be introduced to Kigali. So we just arrived this morning, but we're a little bit late coming in. So we were meant to be doing a cooking class right now. We're gonna go catch the end of it and see how they do cook here. We don't get to do the full thing, which is probably a good thing. I'm not a great cook, but we do get to see how it works. We're here for the next week with Visit Rwanda, and right now we're on Ikaze tours, doing a city tour of Kigali.
So the cooking just happened here with Aminata and Shadi. We have the green banana mixed with onions and tomatoes. And we have here beans, which we mix with onions and tomatoes also.
Dodo. Alright, so they did all the hard work because we missed the cooking part, but we do get to have the tasting part. First, we're going to go on a little walking tour of old Kigali. Milk bar. Wow, well this is something I can't say I've experienced before. Rather than a bar, it's a milk bar. Pretty much all they sell is milk. So we've just come in to order a couple milks and we're going to have a seat and chill in the milk bar.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a small glass of fresh fermented milk? How is it?
Fresh?
It's good, it's actually really, really nice. Yeah.
And this one is fermented milk. So apparently this is quite rare. Normally we should be sitting down. People don't really have it stood up, but we're doing a walking tour. Probably really good for my stomach. It tastes like a probiotic yogurt. And apparently that's really good for you. Like a kefir sort of yogurt thing, settles the stomach. Pretty good.
Yeah, it just tastes a bit like Yakult or like probiotic yogurt.
Oh, refreshing pint of fermented milk to start the day. We've also just been learning that Rwanda has its own language called Kinyarwanda, and I've got a little cheat sheet here. So you can say Amakuru is how are you? And then I could say Nemeza, I am fine. And then if you want to say thank you, which is also another really good one to learn when you come to the country, is Murakoze. So hopefully that'll stick. So it's interesting, we're here with Visit Rwanda and so far I've seen signs everywhere. So you might recognise that logo from this really small team in London. They're pretty rubbish, but some of you might have heard of them. They play in the Premier League, called Arsenal. They're now sponsored by Visit Rwanda, so you might recognise it from there. It kind of shows in the last 10 years there's been a lot of development here, and they're now entering more of the world stage and trying to attract more tourism to Rwanda, which hopefully I'll get to show you this week. Besides, but some of you might already know about it, the gorillas. The gorillas is the real big thing to see here in Rwanda, but there's a lot more to it as well. We will get to do that at the end of the week. So far I've seen so many people wearing football shirts, and football seems to be everywhere here. So we've just been doing a little walking tour of this area that's now been pedestrianised and made as a safe street for children, we've just been told. But it looks really cool. It looks like this is obviously a recent development, but it's a very nice street to walk along, and you can imagine this getting more popular for tourism. It also smells really good, because it's where they make a lot of the food. So I'm very thankful that now we're going for lunch.
It's really tasty. Not much talking, just lots of
Alright, that food was so good. I'm very stuffed, but very happily stuffed. A great first meal as an introduction to Rwanda. I'm sure we're going to be getting loads more great food for the rest of the week. But a really good start. So actually, if we'd arrived on time, we would have been cooking some of that this morning and learned a bit more about it. How to use all the local ingredients that we just went and saw how they get it from the local market. But I don't mind, because maybe I would have messed it up, and that was really, really tasty. So we got the best of both worlds. Now we're heading on to the next spot in Kigali. Slide over?
Yeah.
So interestingly, most of that food was vegetarian, which apparently is pretty common here. It's kind of rare for Rwandan people to have meat, and more as a special occasion rather than with every meal. And that's why it was really good veggie food. Which now brings me to, we've come to a local market where all the local veg can be sourced from. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when you first get to a country and just want to walk around on your own. Just go and find a local market and go and get all of the smells and the colors and all the different senses attacked by a local market. And sometimes it is attacked, because definitely when you walk through the fish section, but it's just well worth doing because you get to see a little taste of what local life is like. How everything just looks really bright and fresh. It's interesting as well, they have the women here making all of these clothes while you shop. So you can actually get something made ready for you while you're here. So they've got all of the sewers right behind me.
Hello, welcome. Welcome.
So I don't think we could carry on the rest of this trip and the rest of this video without talking about the Rwandan genocide, which happened in '94, because that gives the context of where Rwanda's come since then. So right now we're at the Rwandan Genocide Memorial, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened and how Rwanda's bounced back since then.
Sustained gunfire and grenade explosions started in the centre of town just before dawn and are continuing.
On the evening of April 6, 1994, the Rwandan genocide began. It would become one of the most notorious and horrific events in recent history. The genocide was conceived by extremist elements of Rwanda's majority Hutu population, who planned to kill the minority Tutsi population and anyone else who opposed their genocidal intentions. The next few months saw a wave of anarchy and mass killings, in which the army and Hutu militia played a central role. Over 100 days, nearly 1 million ethnic Tutsi and moderate Hutu were killed. The methods they used for killing were typically quite brutal, with crude farming instruments used to pummel and hack away at victims. The Genocide Memorial now acts as a stark reminder to visitors of the very recent tragedy, and the grounds itself are the final resting place for more than 250,000 Rwandan people. Yeah, that is harrowing, horrible to think about, but I think so important to visit as well. I wanted to cut away and tell the story of what happened before coming back to being right here, because I don't want to get it wrong. But I do think that if you're coming to Rwanda, then you should visit the memorial and understand the recent history, because if you're going to see Rwanda's going, I think you also have to understand where it came from. And the genocide, murdering more than 1 million people, was only 28 years ago. So it's not ancient history, it's still a part of the history here, and it's a part of, it affects a lot of people here still. So I think it is something that you should definitely try to understand, even though you can't really imagine it, but you should try to understand what happened. So I'm glad we came. I'm glad we got the audio guide, which was really informative as well, and it's free to come and see, but then you can pay a donation for the audio guide, and well, worth learning about, in my opinion. Now we're heading on, and we're going to go explore more of Rwanda. We've now left Kigali and driving out towards Nyangwe forest where we'll be spending the night tonight. But on the way we've stopped off in Nyanza to visit the King's Palace Museum. And this apparently is one of the key stops you need to do if you're heading out west in Rwanda.
Yeah. This is our museum palace. It's a King's Palace. Like this house was for living.
So we're exploring the King's Palace right now, and we've just been learning about the king of this area before the colonialization of Rwanda. And he had this little house that he lived in, 12 wives, only one queen, which was the preferred one, I've just been told, and also a live-in person to create milk and another live-in person to create beer, and that was basically the king's diet. And now, from what I understand so far, cows and milk is a very strong part of Rwandan history and Rwandan culture. And what we're about to meet, the Inyambo cows, although you shouldn't call them cows, they're Inyambo. And you're going to see why, because they're pretty spectacularly different than a normal cow. Whoa. Wow.
So you need this.
You need a stick?
Further, yeah.
Kurayani na ruvubu rwivugiye ku muvumba ruvuzi kabyara imivanda ruhago rwasenza gikabyara intanguro umva naraye nyiragiye akavubu mu gitondo nyishora akavuguto nimugoroba impazi ikivuguto nibwo yabyariye akajyana bitaga inkerereza abanyakazi umukobwa wayibonye mu gitondo.
So these are Inyambo, or the royal cow. And you see the absolute size of their horns. I've seen them before, but I didn't actually know we were going to get to see them here, and they're really impressive to see up close. You can also see them in other countries around Rwanda, but I'm told they all originate from Rwanda.
They're good. I'm enjoying that.
They're not used for milk, they're not used for meat, they're the royal cows, so they have more of a symbol and they're respected.
Oh, they're massive. They're very warm, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh yeah, wow. These Inyambo really like being stroked. Stay awake, it's okay. She likes it.
Yeah.
You made a friend.
She's a sober like Mel.
And that is it for here. Very interesting and a great stop off on the way. We're now driving for another few hours onto Nyangwe forest. So this I think is well worth it. If you do end up renting a car or getting a driver, this is a great stop off. I think we're going to find somewhere for lunch and then can continue on to where we're staying tonight. So you can see even here, there's another little milk bar like the one we went into yesterday. And as we were driving along as well, I've been seeing them absolutely everywhere. And now, on to lunch. A few hours later and we have arrived at Nyangwe forest and we're staying at Gizakura guest house right now. We're just checking in. It is raining a bit, as you can see, because it is rainy season, but hopefully it's going to rain tonight and then clear up tomorrow so we can see some stuff. A little bit wet?
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's all part of the rainforest experience.
Exactly. That's why you call it a rainforest. Thanks, Joseph. Welcome. And this is where we're going to be spending the night at Gizakura guest house before going out and doing our canopy walk here in the morning. So this is where I'm going to finish this video, and you'll get to see that in the next video. But for right now, I want to give my first impressions of Rwanda. We landed into Kigali yesterday morning. You got to see all of that in this video. And honestly, I think there's so far two sides. Thank you. Oh, wow, someone just made us a fire. Look at that. That actually completes it for tonight, because now we have a little log cabin and a fire to rest before tomorrow. So, first impressions of Rwanda. We've only been here now for almost 48 hours. We had yesterday and today. And yesterday we got to see a lot of Kigali, which I think is a really good way to start a trip in Rwanda. I know a lot of people come here for the gorillas, and we are doing that eventually, but I think also if you're going to come all this way, then you may as well also see the capital and understand a bit of Rwanda's history, or at least try to. So I know Kigali started to get a bit of a reputation as this really developed high-end place that people go for conferences in Africa, and it's a very organized part of Africa as well. Like the streets there are very clean, and as soon as you arrive you see that straight away. It all looks very organized and very different to a lot of African capital cities. And then as soon as you get outside the city, you see the rest of the real Rwanda. So I think it's important to see both. I think I'm glad we got to do the tour in Kigali first, and then I'm also glad that we're getting to see more of Rwanda as well. And you're going to see that in the next videos coming up, because we're traveling around for a few days before heading over to the gorillas. I think there is a lot to see here for such a small country. Roughly, in terms of how big it is, it's roughly the same size as Wales, and yet there's 13 million people here. So it's also one of the most densely populated countries in the world, and there's a lot to see and a lot to do, even though it's very small. It also seems like a country that's developing and changing very quickly, and I think to have the history of the genocide in the 90s is important to see where it's come from, because it is changing so quickly now. And I think like just even to try and understand a bit of that if you come here is quite important, because then it makes it even more impactful to see where Rwanda's going. And I can't talk too much about it because I have only been here for a day and a half, so I can't really give you my full impressions of the country and a full understanding. Obviously, you're just going to have to come and see it yourself to get your own impressions. But that's what I've made of it so far. I'm going to leave the video here, and you can check back for the next one to see what we get up to in the rest of Rwanda. Rwanda. Anyway, see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Alright, thanks again for watching, and I just want to finish this video by saying that everything we did in this video and the series of videos Free Rwanda can be found on the Visit Rwanda app. You can plan itineraries on it, you can get in touch with the local guest houses, and basically figure out anything you want to do while you're in Rwanda. So go check it out, the link will be in the description below, and try it out for yourself. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one. Can you say that again? Subscribe, like, and share.
I will subscribe and share and like.
So you guys have to too.